Food System Development Project, creating a regional food system. Tom, you're going to have 7 minutes to kick us off, and then we're going to have 7 minutes for questions. I might encourage you to leave introductions to the end just to make sure you don't run out of time. We appreciate all of you being here. Thank you so much. I know a lot of hard work and collaboration has gone into presenting this PIP. I do want to just say that these PIPs are a great conversation, and we hope that we can fund as many as possible, but I will also tell you that if yours doesn't get funded this year, it doesn't mean it's not a great idea. It may just mean that it needs to get fleshed out a bit, or may get funding in the second or third year. So we appreciate you for being here. Tom, I'll kick it over to you. And wait, got to recognize a council member. Councilmember Russ Pulley is here, and we thank him for joining us today.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, members of the panel. I'm Tom Sharp from the Metro Public Health Department. I'm here with Tasha Kennard, the director of the Nashville Farmers Market, and other small sampling of the other interested parties. And first of all, thank you for the opportunity. We'd like to talk to you today about food, which is a subject that we all think about usually in a very personal and incremental way, along the lines of what's for lunch, which is appropriate at this point. We rarely think about the interconnectedness of the food system between our health, our economy, the sustainability of our land. As a government, we put a lot of time and effort into taking care of our air, into taking care of our water, but we tend to leave food to its own devices. What we have now as a result is a disjointed and inefficient system that leaves gaps in terms of access and economic opportunity, availability. What we propose today is that the metropolitan government raise food to the same status that it accords to other of life's necessities like air and water. And it's no small issue. Nashville and surrounding counties buy on the order of $4 billion a year worth of food. A small percentage of that, about 5%, comes from local sources. So how do we proceed? We propose two things. The first is to invest in a regional food system assessment, and the second is to institutionalize and prioritize food within the metropolitan government. Let's start with the regional food assessment. This is a foundational data set. This will tell us what we have, what we need. It looks at supply and demand. It looks at your transportation, distribution, warehousing, refrigeration, all the aspects of the system. It is by its nature a collaborative process. It will help you in the process of doing it develop the network that you need going forward. And this one will be of use to the community, broadly speaking, because Metro will pay for it and the data will be shared so that it's not held for some parochial business interest. I realize that may be a little bit, wrong slide. I realize that may be a little bit abstract. So to give you a quick example, Louisville had a food system assessment in 2012. They found a huge disconnect between the enormous amount of demand and a relatively limited amount of supply. One of the things they have done as a result is to build a $50 million food port that they intend to open this fall, and it's promoted, and I thought this was interesting, I'm quoting here, as a long-term regional and integrated economic development strategy. This is what they think it'll look like. They're talking about 250 jobs. It's an aggregate for demand. It's an aggregate for supply, and has a lot of ancillary services, kitchen incubator, food truck plaza, demonstration farm, some other things. So that is just one example. There are many of these food system assessments been done all across the country. They're done by cities. They're done by states. And in each case, they are driving the actions going forward. And so that Mr. Riegling and Talia's heads don't explode. We're not proposing to spend $50 million tomorrow. We may or may not head in that direction. It'll depend on what the food system assessment tells us, but it's just to show you that there are major changes afoot, and they are being driven at the local level. They all started with the foundation of the food system assessment. And this may sound ambitious, and to a certain extent it is, but it's not radical. We're not ahead of the curve here. If anything, we may be behind it. The second part of our proposal is to make food a priority within the government. We believe this will take the data and the connections, the network, and use it to drive it into sustained action. We suggest a creation within the government of we're calling it for working purposes, Food Systems Development Office, to elevate food to that higher priority, again with the benefits of economic development, increased collaboration, a more sustainable, healthier system, improved health of the citizens, better access for communities that are underserved by the current market. And I would note that that is one of the goals of Nashville Next, is to have healthy food in all neighborhoods. This office could coordinate things that are within Metro, that could be whatever the programs might turn out to be, to get the food to the places that are underserved, to aggregate our demand for better leverage. And Mr. Riebling, I know you've heard that one before. To oversee and connect community efforts, as whether it's a mobile food market or a community gardens program, of which there are numerous robust examples around the country. But I would point out that there are potential benefits of considerably greater magnitude that are beyond Metro's direct control, but not its influence. This is a picture of a food system. I know it's busy, and please don't try to memorize it, but the idea is to show the interconnectedness of the food system. It touches on our environment, touches on our health, our social well-being, it touches on politics, it touches on the economy. It also points to the potential broad reach and of the collaborations that are available to us. The pool of partners is very deep. There are many already here doing this work. There are many actually here today. Thank you all very much. And what we propose is to harness this interest, this passion really, to give the system coherence, structure, and guidance, and critically to bring the weight of public good to bear on that system. So, the request is in two distinct parts: to invest in the food system assessment, which we believe we can do in the first year for $30,000. There's a universe of people that do this work. We know who they are. They know who we are. The second would be to institutionalize the Food Development Office in the beginning of year 2, and to staff it to the extent necessary to make the best and broadest use of the information and the network created in the assessment. The fact is, we have an inefficient food system. We waste food that could be put to better use. We import food that we could grow, and we don't get food to the right places. We believe if we do this, that Nashville will have a healthier, more sustainable food system that we will benefit from for generations. That is our proposal.
You got time to introduce your folks.
If there are any easy questions, I'll take them. If they're hard, but she'll take them.
Why don't you introduce who you've got with you?
We have a very large group with us today, and they represent nonprofits, they represent other Metro agencies. We have
Taja, microphone.
Sorry about that. We have a very large group with us today. They represent nonprofits. They represent chefs, Metro Social Services, Reach 2020, Alignment Nashville, Farm to School program. A lot of different interested parties coming together, trying to collaborate to create a better system.
Do you want to introduce them?
I think we're good.
Never mind,
because
we're
we
good.
have very little time left.
No worries. We appreciate all of you guys being here. Thank you. All right. We got 7 minutes. All panel. Michael?
In year 1, it looks like the cost of an assessment. In year 2, there are salaries. We're projecting salaries ahead of an assessment. Can you connect the two for me as to what that means?
So the extent to which the salaries are necessary, it may be somebody that you want to repurpose in the office, or it could be someone new. We're not really sure exactly how. That will depend on how the administration wants to arrange that system. What we put in there, sort of as a placeholder, was as an individual and I believe a staff member. But that's not set in stone by any means.
And is the assessment for how Metro coordinates its own food purchases, or I'm trying to really clarify
What the
because I got
assessment will
lost a
do is
little bit in
it'll
that.
look at what's available to you regionally. It looks at the food system.
Understand.
It will assess the demand within the community. It assesses what your supply is, where the gaps are. It looks at the whole system and gives you data to work from. I'm not answering your question, Emma.
No, sir, but that's okay.
Try again.
This is beyond how Metro purchases its food. You're talking about the community at large, is that right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir. That would be a portion of it, but probably a relatively small
Do you already
portion.
know how Metro purchases and uses its food within its own budget?
Yes, to some extent we do.
Okay.
It's uncoordinated.
Wasn't there a proposal last year,
Yes, sir.
before,
Yes, sir,
to
there
come up
was.
with a coordinated program on that?
Yes, sir, there was. In fact, I knew you'd heard that.
There was an
before.
idea to reality, I believe, proposal?
Yes, sir,
2
it
years
was.
ago or last year?
Yes.
Well, and we obviously receive federal funds that flow through that we then access for food programs.
Yes, ma'am.
Clearly, there seems to be some disconnects at other places at the moment on how that's being spent. Would this capture some of that, looking at the federal spending, how it's being allocated, and where it's going? Is that part of this?
It could be a part of it, certainly. But what Metro purchases, although it's a substantial amount of money, it's in the tens of millions of dollars between the schools, the hospital, the jail, and other institutional buyers within the government, that is by no means the end of what we're looking at. It's a much broader assessment than that.
Right, and we are also a pass-through for funds that go on into the community where other organizations are participating.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. Michael?
I'll ask my question differently, hypothetically, and see if you and I connect on this one. Assuming the target were Metro, because that's totally within the purview of everybody in the room, what sort of advantages do you see in Metro having its own coordinated food purchase distribution system for the money Metro spends on food?
For the money Metro spends on
Yes.
food. You want to take schools, for an instance. If you can aggregate the demand and connect it with the supply. There's a disconnect. There tends to be a disconnect between that. If we wanted to spend it specifically on what comes into Metro, schools would be the most obvious place to start.
Schools up there.
Okay.
To help me understand, what does success look like when you're, say, getting ready to start year 4? What does success look like to you?
The outcome of these food system assessments has varied across the country. I don't really know exactly what shape it would take. I will give you an example. The Louisville example was one. Chattanooga did one. They also have a food hub. It's of a slightly smaller nature. And the food hub helps you aggregate demand. It helps. This is for entrepreneurial farmers, actually, because it's harder for them as a small standalone business. If they can aggregate the demand and aggregate the supply, it's easier to connect those two dots. So I can't say exactly what shape it will take. Hypothetically, it could take the shape of a food hub of some sort where you have this connection between distribution and supply.
Is part of the assessment also looking at food supply in emergency situations? So is the assessment that broad where we
Yes, ma'am.
make those connections?
There are a lot of sort of bit players in the system. We buy bits and pieces of food. We have SNAP benefits. We have
Food banks, we have feeding programs. So I think it's important to recognize that this assessment is broader than Metro's procurement of food. This assessment would collect information from any type of interested community partner or individual that is involved in the food industry in our region. So it would be the folks that manage food banks, that run homeless feeding programs, that cook for a living and that we eat at their restaurants, that run social services, that run other nonprofit programs, or feeding our children in schools, or distributing food in prisons. It's very, very connected, and it would help us aggregate all of that information and utilize it for economic gain as well as a better collaborative, vibrant food system.
I think that's my question. The ultimate outcome of the assessment is to connect some economic development component that then assists small farmers, growers, that kind of stuff. So that's really what the assessment is about, not about how we procure food or spend more money, I guess. That's what I'm hearing.
It'll give us resources to know how to grow more food, distribute more food, and eat more local, which will improve health outcomes as well.
You've characterized this as a policy position, as a food policy group and recommendation.
That's a
So
working
I'm
title.
trying to just figure out exactly what this is. Is it a policy type group that's going to come back and advise the mayor on what she ought to do around particular initiatives?
We currently have a Nashville Food Policy Council. It has been in existence for many years. Many of the individuals that have served on that council over time are standing before you you today. This group has been discussing a food assessment for over 5 years and trying to collaborate and determine what our community really needs. We've met with individuals that do this for a living across the country. Just recently, the USDA announced a toolkit to help local communities evaluate the economic outcomes of doing a food assessment in their region. And so we want to tie all of this together, bring this group of people together, and be able to move this assessment forward out of the conversation period and into action. And that's what we're asking, is the investment to help us make this happen.
And is the Nashville Food Policy Council well represented in this group?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you.